My name is Lisa Marshall. I'm the Director of Organizing and Advocacy at New Yorkers for Clean Power, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to this noon teach-in today with some really great speakers and terrific information. Um, we're living in a time of really dramatic change in our energy landscape, and it's sad to say that it's for the worse. So, as you probably all know, a big package of clean energy incentives were passed under the Biden administration, and nearly all of those have been stripped away by the so called Big Beautiful Budget Bill that passed just recently. So here we find ourselves in a very short term situation with a very short window left to take advantage of the existing incentives. And my previous job was at Heat Smart, helping people to access incentives for heat pumps and home energy upgrades. And I know it's difficult to figure it all out, to figure out what to buy, what the incentives are, what's the right thing for you and your home in this time, who is a good contractor or who is a good car dealer. It's very overwhelming. And I think that it makes sense to need help, which is why New Yorkers for Clean Power has a really wonderful clean energy coaching program that you can take advantage of and book a one-on-one coaching session with us. We also have New York's clean energy hubs that serve all parts of the state, and those folks should be in a position to be able to help you to some extent. And we also have with us today, Michael Hernandez of Rewiring America, which is an organization that was really essential to helping to get these clean energy credits in the first place, and is helping people make sure they know which ones they can still take advantage of and what the deadline is. So I don't want to take up too much time, but I'm excited to turn this over to our speakers, and we are going to kick off with none other than Michael Hernandez of Rewiring America. And I'm going to ask the speakers to introduce themselves a little bit to you instead of me going over everyone's bios. So if we could have the next slide, please, Lorenzo, and we'll spotlight Michael. Terrific. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. I am Michael Hernandez from Rewiring America. Oh, can everybody hear me? Wonderful. Okay, so next slide, please. Michael Hernandez from Rewiring America. And I started my career out in the Assembly, where I was counsel to the Speaker for a number of subject matter areas, including energy, ENCON, transportation, and worked my way up to Assistant Secretary. I also worked at the Dormitory Authority for a number of years, where we basically issued bonds and used the revenues to build New York State's capital infrastructure. I was their intergovernmental relations director. And I'm an attorney. I'm admitted in both New York and California. All right, next slide. Rewiring America, as Lisa said, was instrumental in the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act. We really were founded on the idea of let's electrify everything. And we're really focused on the demand side. How can we help people get incentives, get information on their electrification journey? Next slide, please. Okay, so that's our one simple idea: electrify everything. Next slide, please. Okay, everything that I'm going to talk to you about, I'm really going to focus on the housing part of the incentives. Everything I'm going to talk to you about is on our website. I just put it in the chat. You can go and you can see all of the information. I'm going to go very quickly through a lot of dense information. So you'll probably want to go to that website to do it at your own pace. I will, yeah, I would definitely recommend that. Okay. So the One Big Beautiful Bill Act passed, eliminates popular federal home energy tax credits years earlier than was planned, cutting off support for America's households facing increasing energy bills. But that's the bad news. The good news is that there's still time to use those credits before they expire. We're going to, we have them on our website, and I'm going to run through them really quickly. Next slide, please. Okay, so here's a list of some of the incentives that I'll be going through. I'm mostly going to focus on 25C and 25D. Don't worry if you don't understand that. I'm about to explain it. And some of the other speakers here will go through some of those other provisions. Okay, next slide. So starting with 25C, there are 4 credits I'm going to talk to about that you can use. Those are electrical components or your panel, your electric panel, heat pumps or heat pump water heaters. You can do weatherization to your home, and then or insulation, and then also a home energy audit. Next slide. Okay, first one I'll talk about is the heat pump air conditioner or heater. You can get up to $2,000 tax credit, but you need to have your heat pump installed before December 31st, 2025 to be eligible. So you can get, when you're talking about 25C, those are the 4 tax credits I just went through. You can use a total for the whole year of $3,200 for all 25C tax credits, and you can get up to $2,000 specifically for a heat pump water heater. And that is, I believe, yes, up to 30% of the projected costs of your heat pump water heater. So up to 30% of the total costs, capped at $2,000. Okay. And you do have to subtract any price adjustments from the cost of the item. So meaning that, if you get a rebate or utility subsidy or a financial incentive that lowers the price point, that can change that 30%. I'll just put a link in the chat. Give me one second. And you can go there and you can learn a little bit about doing that kind of analysis. And 25C tax credit is non-refundable, which means that you can't get back more than you pay in federal income taxes. So for example, if 30% of your project's cost hits the $2,000 cap, but you only owe $1,000 in federal income taxes this year, you would only receive $1,000 credit. So it's non-refundable. It's only up to the amount that you owe in federal taxes. And remember, after December 31st, 2025, heat pump purchases or installations will not be eligible for the 25C tax incentive. So this tax credit is specifically for homeowners, and they can use it for heat pump water heater projects at homes that are already built. Homeowners can use this tax credit for their primary and secondary homes, and renters are also eligible to use this tax credit. There are no income requirements in order to use this tax credit. But again, like all federal tax credits, nearly all federal tax credits, you can only use it if you pay federal income taxes. And the amount you can receive is limited by the amount of federal income tax you pay in a year. I have a lot of information, and perhaps I'm gonna get to what you're asking. So I'm going to not be answering questions in the chat until the end here. The IRS has said that you can claim the credit if you rely on the manufacturer's written certification that the product qualifies. So you have to make sure that the heat pump that you install qualifies. And if you go to the manufacturer website and it says there's written certification on the website that says this qualifies for the 25C tax credit, that's all you need. Take a screenshot of that website, keep it for your records. as you move forward. Okay, so here are the steps you'll need to take to save on a new heat pump. You need to purchase and install your heat pump before December 31st, 2025. Keep track of your invoice from your contractor. Hold on to that invoice. You need to fill out IRS form 5695. I'm going to put that in the chat, and this is the form. Okay, and here are the instructions for the form. Again, all this information is on our website. And then submit that form along with your annual tax return, and you will be able to enjoy your tax credit. Okay, and I'll just note you can claim a standard deduction to claim your 25C tax credit. You don't need to itemize. Now, you can only apply for and claim the 25C tax credit for energy upgrades in the year in which the project is completed. So if you purchased your heat pump in 2024, but you had it installed in 2025, you would only be able to apply for that tax credit in tax year 2025. Okay, next slide. Okay, now this is for heat pump water heaters. So again, this is 30% of the cost of the project, capped at $2,000. This is for electric heat pumps and heat pump water heaters. Same thing, 30% of the cost of the heat pump water heater, capped at $2,000. You will have to adjust the cost based on any rebates, subsidies, anything. And so I put that link in the chat. Now, who can take advantage of this? Again, it's homeowners that can use this tax credit for homes that are already built, not new homes. And homeowners can use this tax credit for primary or secondary homes. And then renters are also eligible to use the tax credit. Landlords can never claim this credit for homes that they rent out but do not use as the residents themselves. I'm going to put into the chat a frequently asked question about this. You can look at that as well. Everything I'm saying today is not tax advice. So to learn about credits for new homes, you can also look at this 45L. This is for new homes, and I put that in the chat as well. There are no income requirements to receive a tax credit on this. So no income limitations, but you do need to pay federal taxes and owe federal taxes. Okay. Which heat pump water heaters can you use? They have to be designed to incentivize high efficiency equipment. Specifically, qualifying heat pump water heaters must meet or exceed the highest efficiency tier established by the Consortium of Energy Efficiency, and the project must be completed before December 31st, 2025. Efficiency standards and ratings can be difficult to evaluate, so your best bet is to ask your contractor if your project qualifies for the 25C tax credit. Some manufacturer websites list tax credit eligible equipment, and so does Energy Star product finder. I'm going to put that link in the chat. You can go there to find out. For the most comprehensive list of qualifying heat pump water heater models, you can go to the Consortium Energy Efficiency website. I'm putting a link in the chat. Okay, and remember, the IRS has said that you can rely on the manufacturer's written certification that a product qualifies. So if the manufacturer's website lists that as a qualifying heat pump water heater, make sure you get a copy of that, keep it for your records. And so how do you use this? You got to purchase and install your heat pump water heater before December 31st, 2025. Keep that invoice from your contractor. Fill out that IRS form 5695, submit it with your taxes, and you should be able to take advantage of this tax credit. All right, let's go to the next slide.
And Michael, I have a lot. We're running a little short on your time, so keep.
Okay, I think 15 minutes. I should have 4 minutes left. Let's see. All right. Weatherization. We have, you can use weatherization up to $1,200. The project must be completed by December 31st, 2025. Weatherization upgrades are just some of the home improvements that qualify for 25C. And so remember, you have a yearly cap of 3,200 for all 25C tax credits. And you can use $1,200 for weatherization projects. The weatherization tax credit can cover up to 30% of your weatherization project cost. Labor costs are ineligible. All right, and then who can take advantage of the weatherization? This tax credit applies to weatherization projects for homes that are already built and used as the primary residence by the taxpayer. Weatherization projects must be completed by December 31st, 2025. Renters are not eligible for this tax credit. Homeowners cannot use this tax credit for secondary homes. And a landlord can never claim this credit for homes that they rent out but do not use as a residence themselves. There's no income tax, there's no income requirements to use the weatherization tax credit. All right, next slide. Right, I think, okay, so electrical panels, updated deadlines. Okay, so you can get up to $600 for installations for electrical panels that are done before December 31st, 2025. It's cover up to 30% of your electrical panel project costs. It's capped at $600. And then the 25C electrical panel upgrade combinations, you can do an electrical panel and a weatherization project that would be capped at $1,200, or you can do an electrical panel and a heat pump, and that would be capped at $2,600, or you can do an electrical panel and a heat pump water heater, and that would be capped at $2,600. So who can take advantage of the electrical panel upgrade? That's going to be renters and homeowners. They can both use this tax credit for electrical panels in homes that are already built. Homeowners can use this for both their primary and secondary homes. Okay, there's no income tax requirements. Now, qualifying electrical panels must meet the standards for the National Electric Code and have a capacity of 200 amps or more. This means that your new upgraded panel must be able to serve a load of at least 200 amps, but you don't need 200 amps of incoming utility service. Smart panels may qualify. I'm going to give you a link for the National Electric Code that you can utilize to determine which ones. Okay. All right. Next slide. All right. And then we have a home energy audit. You can get up to $150 for your home energy audit. It must be done before December 31st, 2025, in order to be eligible. Renters and homeowners can make upgrades to their primary home. They can get a home energy audit, and there's no income tax limits. The IRS does define what is a qualified home energy auditor. And so I will put a link there where you can find out more information on that. Your home energy auditor must provide to you in written signed report that says, what is your home energy audit's name, their employee and their employer's EIN, a statement that they've been certified by completing one of the certification programs, the improvement that would save the most money to your home, and an estimate of how much each improvement would save. Okay, next slide. Now, these are 25D. You can take advantage of rooftop solar installations, 30% of the qualifying costs, no limitation on the amount, 30% of the qualifying cost. The solar panels must be installed before December 31st, 2025. Next panel, excuse me, next slide. Next slide. And then battery storage installation, again, 30% of qualifying costs must be installed before December 31st, 2025. Next slide. And then geothermal heating installation, you can get up to, it would be cover up to 30% of your geothermal project's eligible costs. There's no cap. This slide says up to 150, but that is not, it's 30% of the whole project, no cap, no maximum dollar amount. Okay, and then next slide. All right, so that's all I have. Please go to our website. I'll put that website back in there. And if you have any questions, you can reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. I'm sorry for rushing you. And that's only because we have two more great speakers that we want to make sure we have time for and everybody's questions. And Michael's going to stick around to answer questions both in the chat and during the Q&A. So next we're going to turn over to the topic of EVs and EV charging. And for that, we have New Yorkers for Clean Power's own wonderful EV energy coaches. Let's kick off with Mr. Steve Wehr. Steve, take it away.
Yep. Well, hi, everybody. My name is Steve Wehr. I'm an EV advocate. I'm an educator. I'm an author. I'm a coach for New Yorkers for Clean Power. And I live in Hyde Park, New York. And I just did this electrification journey that Michael was just talking about. Heat pump water heater last year, heat pumps for heating and cooling this year, new insulation last year and this year, and solar and batteries this year. So I'm getting in under the tax credit. So if anybody wants to talk later about the journey of doing that, we can talk. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the rebates and incentives for EVs and when they're going away. So right now you have a $7,500 point of sale rebate that's active until September 30th. So you don't quite have to rush out right away, but boy, if you're thinking about getting an EV, you'd better start planning. This is for plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles. You can get the list there at that link to see which vehicles qualify for the incentive. There's a whole bunch of rules based on the battery content and where things are manufactured, and so that's why not every vehicle qualifies. There are income requirements for this rebate as well. And then for used EVs, you can get a $4,000 point of sale rebate. And just to be clear by that, I mean, yeah, in fact, I just bought another, I traded in my 6.5-year-old EV, thought it was time, and got a new one it's 2 weeks old now. So the auto dealer will just take that $7,500 right off the cost of the car as you're buying it. You don't have to file for a tax credit for this one. So this is a little easier for everybody to manage. They will ask you to verify that you qualify. It's a self kind of thing, but you will get the $7,500 off right from the dealership. Same thing with used EVs. When you're buying the used EV, they will give you $4,000 off. That will last until September 30th as well. There's a different vehicle list for used EVs that you can make sure they qualify for the federal tax credit. And the income requirements are, the same kind of requirements, but 50% lower. Just take all the numbers, divide by half, and that's what the qualifications are for the federal rebate. New York State. New York State is not changing the rebates that we have. We have the NYSERDA Drive Clean rebate. That's, again, a point of sale rebate. If the car is under $42,000 purchase price, you get a $2,000 instant rebate from New York State. And then if the car is over $42,000, you get a $500 rebate. So I got an example on the right, one of my favorite EVs right now, the brand new Chevy Equinox. Well, it's not brand new. It's been around for 2 years, selling really great. They just came off their best sales month ever in July. Car starts at around $35,000, and you could get about $9,500 off that car. So 25,500 starting price for a brand new EV. It's a pretty good deal. Next page. There are incentives for home charging as well. There's a 30% federal tax rebate. Now, this is when you apply for it, just like the ones that Michael was talking about. For home charging equipment and installation, it's capped at $1,000, and that is not going away until next June. I didn't know that until I started researching this. I thought, oh, well, that's interesting. So they let that go till next June 2026. That is officially known as the Alternative Fuel Refueling Property Credit. That's quite a mouthful. But basically, if you buy an EV this year and then you want to put in a home charger or do some electrical work to put in even the outlet for one, however that works, all the electrical work, the installation and the purchase of the home charger, you can apply for a 30% federal tax credit to do that. New York State also, if you happen to have a home business or you're doing this at a business, you're going to put a charger in your business. I happen to have a little tiny home business I've had for 25 years. And so because of that, New York State will give me a 50% rebate on those same things, the charger and the installation and so forth. So it's still you've got plenty of time to work on this and work on home charging. Okay, next chart. And speaking of charging, I'm just going to go into a little fairly quick rundown of the charging situation here kind of in the country. The charging plugs are finally becoming standardized. You're probably aware that Tesla has always used a different socket and plug than everybody else who sells cars in America. Well, it's the great Betamax versus VHS, war, if you're old enough to remember that. And Tesla ended up kind of winning that war in that they had they sell about 3/4 of the EVs in the country. They had probably 3/4 of the charging stations in the country. So kind of by de facto being the most prevalent one out there, the US has decided to standardize on that kind of plug, and it's now called NACS for the North American Charging Standard. And every single auto manufacturer that's selling cars in the US has either converted so that their cars now come with the NACS socket or will in the 2026 model year. So we're going to start to see that happen. You're going to see that most of the charging, companies, the third parties that are putting out chargers, they're now going to include both CCS and NACS plugs in their chargers. So next chart. And just to go through these really quickly, just some of the new charging networks that are expanding out there, doing some really cool things. So this one, Iona, is a joint venture of all these manufacturers. They're just getting started. They've got a couple dozen locations open now. They've got hundreds more under contract. The big thing here is they're partnering with these big gas station and convenience store chains. Sheetz and Wawa. We don't have a lot of these up here in New York State, up in the Northeast, but these are big around the country. And here's a picture of one of their what are called rechargeries that they're opening. Little convenience store, a little place to sit while your car is recharging. They're really trying to make a nice experience for EV owners. Goal of 30,000 plugs by 2030. Next chart. EVgo, GM, and Pilot. Again, Pilot and Flying J. These are not ones, again, we are too familiar with here in New York State, but these are all over the South. They've got 130 locations in 25 states right now, aiming to install 2,000 DC fast chargers at 500 locations. So really expanding there. Next chart. Love's Travel Stops, another big gas station and convenience store location, adding in EV charging. They've currently got about 100 chargers across 36 locations in 14 states. Generally you're going to see these kind of chains. They all see kind of the writing on the wall, right? They know that gas is going to decline a little bit. EVs are, continuing to sell and sell well. And so they make their money not on the gas, they make their money on people going into the convenience stores. And EV drivers are great for that because we got to use the bathroom too, and we're there longer than the gas station people are. So we're likely to hang out and have some food and buy some drinks. So all these chains recognize that, and they're all adding in EV charging. Next. Just a snapshot in New York, what's happening. The New York State Thruway, if you've driven on the New York State Thruway, there are chargers that are in every single rest stop on the New York State Thruway now. Jumping to the left side of the screen, Evolve New York was a project by the New York Power Authority to add charging in along travel corridors in New York. And so, they're doing everything else but the Thruway and adding in chargers that look like the ones up and left. And then you've got, private networks like Tesla that have a ton of chargers here in New York, and the other private networks are catching up. So there's a lot of charging now in New York. You can really go anywhere you want without running into any trouble. Next. So just to summarize there, 2024 and 2025 are going to be banner years for EV charging. We might not all see it because you're sitting in your home and maybe you don't have, we don't have a new, EV charger that's popped up next to you. But 2024 was the biggest growth year for EV charging in the country. 2025 is going to break that record. So just in the first half of 2025, 1,500 new charging stations, over 8,000 new ports were added in the US. We're on track for a 19% increase in the number of charging stations and ports. So they expect to have about 16,000 new ports that were added in 2025. The NEVI funding, that is the funding that is being clawed back by the current administration. That was the new energy vehicle infrastructure, I believe. Several $billions that were being handed out to the states to work on plans and put some of this funding to work building charging. I think the Evolve New York chargers that were done by New York State were funded last year under the NEVI funding. But really, that's only accounting for about 3% of the total US chargers. So this is really all coming from private companies that know that this is, the right thing to do and the way they're going to make money. Most EVs, when you're on the road, you can charge in between 20 and 40 minutes. And the New York State Thruway chargers, one of the things that they do is they accept credit cards, just like a gas station pump. No need for a special app like a lot of the charging companies still do. So that's getting better as well. That's my summary. Now we're going to move on to our next EV coach.
Great. Thank you so much, Steve. Lorenzo, if you could unshare the slide deck real quick. And Samrat, you're free to share your screen now. Oh, we see Steve in full Technicolor now. And let's spotlight Samrat now, and we'll go for more discussion on EVs.
Great. Thanks so much for setting me up well, Steve and Michael. I'll quickly introduce myself and then get into some of the things that people usually have questions about when they think of the EV transition. You might be like, why is Steve so gung-ho about this? Why is he talking about all of this? What about the batteries? What about the environmental impacts? It's a deep topic, but I'll try to really compress it in the next 10 minutes. And then if you have more questions, you can, of course, make appointments with the clean energy coaches at New Yorkers for Clean Power. It's free. We won't charge you anything. We can't sell you anything, except that we can maybe convince you to spend some money on EVs. All right. I'm Samrat. I'm a public educator. I teach at Walkill High School. I teach physics and computer science for a living. And then I have fun with the energy coaches at New Yorkers for Clean Power. So let's get right into this. So what Steve is talking about is this real big transition that we're starting to see now. ICE, our internal combustion engines. Around 2015, most of the vehicles, new car sales were internal combustion engines. There were hardly any, like it was a rounding error, EV sales. And this is really changing. Please follow my pointer. There's lots of data on this slide. By next year, we expect 1 in 4 cars globally, new cars, to be electric vehicles. This is the transition. This is really the transition that's happening right now. No wonder the fossil fuel industry is scared. Just some of the countries there, again, a data-heavy chart. You can see countries like Norway, where of the new car sales, more than 90% are now all electric. United States, like always, is far behind. My point of comparison here is that Norway has harsher winters than New York, and of course, depending on where you are and other local conditions. But if electric cars work in Norway, there's no reason that they should not work in most parts of New York or all of New York. US EV sales slowed down in 2024, but they still hit new heights. And I think we're going to break the records again this year, despite the fact that the tax credit is being phased out. Why has this happened? Well, because we see a real advancement in terms of the battery technology, what is being offered to us in terms of our range. Now you can see in comparison to 2016, we have a lot more models that offer you more than 300 plus miles on a charge. That really takes away that range anxiety piece. Most models offer more than 250 miles. I personally think 250 miles is enough. My partner drives to Pennsylvania, which is about to her parents' place, which is about 150 miles. She does not stop for a charge. She does not even use any of the networks that Steve was talking about. She goes there, she plugs into their home outlet, tops up the car a little bit, and then she comes right back to New York. This is again another slide stressing this point. As you go through the years, notice here in the 2022, you have a lot more models. You have lots of models that offer you more than 200, 250, 300 miles of range on a single charge. All of this is leading to this rapid adoption where people are feeling more comfortable that they can do this. And even though the range has increased, which means in some cases larger battery packs, the battery prices have kept coming down. And the consequence of this is that the cars haven't really become more expensive. The increase in price that you see has more to do with things like inflation and now tariffs than specifically with the EV technology. In fact, EVs really passed a key measure of price parity in the US. So now many new 300-mile range EVs cost less than the average new car in the US. New cars are expensive, period, right? And lots of new EVs now cost less than the average new car. We just, I traded my Tesla, couldn't drive it anymore. So for obvious reasons, I traded it in for a Hyundai Kona Electric. My cost after all the rebates that Steve was talking about for a new car was $31,000. That's very attractive. As Steve was mentioning, another reason for this rapid adoption is the sheer number of charging ports, public charging ports that are available. We're getting to about 200,000 nationally. What I want to stress again is that if you are a person who does not live in an apartment complex and you have a house and you have an access to some sort of an electrical outlet, you will be doing most of your charging at home. I rarely charge at a public charging station. Most of my charging happens at home. That's also true for most people who own EVs and are not renters. So the age of the internal combustion engine is coming to an end. We know that the data is very clear. That's why earlier this year, the Kia CEO and executive vice president said it would just be a dumb idea to do away with the EV tax credits. But America is in America, we are free to take dumb decisions, and that's exactly what happened. And now the EV tax credits are going away. Well, you might still have some concerns. All that said, may I still have some concerns about environmental impacts of EVs. So real quick, if you look at mine-to-wheel emissions means from manufacturing everything about the car, including the batteries, to the end of life. And here you can see on the left here, you can see a gasoline vehicle. In blue are its vehicle manufacturing emissions, which are lower than that of an EV at the beginning because the EV has that additional emissions due to battery manufacturing. But over the course of operation of the car, the EV has far lower emissions because electricity is a much cleaner fuel to use, of course, depending on where you are. So in most cases, we are seeing this is globally most cases we see a third to a quarter is what the emissions for an EV are. So you're seeing 66 to 75% reduction in emissions. They can be higher based on where you live and if you have access to things like solar. What happens to batteries after the car? That's a question that often comes up. Firstly, like a lot of people assume that batteries are just thrown in the trash, but that's not happening. A battery has lots of valuable resources in it. So those companies do want to recycle the batteries. But before that, what we're starting to see is a real collaboration between companies like Redwood Energy and GM partnerships so that these EV batteries can be used as storage batteries. They are no longer in the cars. They've been taken out of the cars. They're being used for storage purposes and paired with renewable energy sources. So we're extending the life of these EV batteries, as with this facility, say, in Lancaster with the new startup BTU. These batteries, we are extending the lives of these batteries, reducing the emissions on the grid, and of course, making money while doing that. Once that is done, batteries will be recycled. We expect this market to grow up to about $9,500 billion by 2040. So there is big money to be made here, and everyone's looking at this piece of the pie. You might say, okay, that's all great, but why do I pay more money for this thing that's going to cost me more? Maybe I can't afford it. So when we do a life cycle comparison, this comparison has been done with taking the tax credits into account, the federal tax credit, not the state or local credits, just the federal 7,500 into account. Then when you do a like-to-like comparison, something like a Chevy Equinox that Steve was talking about earlier, compared to a gas-powered Equinox, you see there's a big difference. Lifetime cost comparison, the EV is much cheaper. So you see something similar with the Ford F-150 Lightning, the electric truck versus the internal combustion engine vehicle. That's why these credits were so important. Now they're going away, of course, and we're hoping you'll be able to take advantage of this before they do. The batteries themselves have very long warranties, 8 to 10 years for most vehicles, 100,000 miles. So you can rest easy. You will not have to replace them. Often people confuse the 12-volt, the little battery, with the big battery of the car. So they think, oh, after 3 years, I'll need to replace this big battery. That is not the case. In fact, you have to, at this point, we have enough data. Please stop worrying about EV battery failure. If a magazine like Motor Trend, an online outlet like Motor Trend is saying this, which means they have to admit it because the data is there, then you don't have to worry about EV battery failure. Your car batteries, your big battery will outlast the body of the car. That's the data we're seeing now. Lots of offers right now. Steve mentioned some of this. There are cash offers, there are lease offers. Some lease offers are really good. I'm not usually a lease recommending person, but right now there are lots of good lease offers. So if that's something attractive to you, please talk to the coaches. Financing, of course, lots of 0% financing. And there might be some of you in this crowd who might say, oh, well, I still have a car and I always like to run my cars to the ground. Well, if you looked at the used car price index, in 2025, the value of used cars has gone up, which means your car actually will fetch you more money. if you sell it. And then some person who cannot be convinced by this or may not have the means to make that switch to an EV, they can drive that nice car of yours. And as a bonus, I brought in some used EV deals. I'll put them in the chat later so that you can all, whoever's ready, can rush to it and get 4 of these very attractive deals. I'm sure there are more to be found. We can work with you on that. Last thing, I'm going to give you an emissions caveat just to put things into perspective, how important EVs are to the big picture of decarbonization. Now, if you want to keep to our goals in the set forth in the Paris Climate Accords, then the annual carbon budget per person is 2.1 tons. A ton is 1,000 kilograms, which is like give or take about 4,200, 4,300 pounds of carbon dioxide. That's all a person gets if you want to keep to the targets in the Paris Climate Agreement. If you drive a car 12,000 miles a year, which is less than what people do on average in the US, and your car gives you 50 miles per gallon, which most cars don't, the average fleet efficiency is 25 miles to the gallon, you use 240 gallons of gasoline. And that is equivalent to 2.1 tons of CO2. So you would have exhausted your carbon budget just on that vehicle that you're driving. So that's why we're saying, please go for this now, take advantage of the incentives. You might be very happy. You might even get a little smug. You might buy that car and decide to celebrate with a vacation in Europe. But here's the problem. One round trip flight to Europe is at least 4.2 tons of carbon dioxide, twice your annual limit. So please don't do that. Drive to Montreal, take a vacation in Canada. That's it. I'm done. Back to you, Lisa.
Thank you so much. I did not know that we were also going to have vacation planning advice on this webinar. So it's good to know. And I'm sure my staff members, my colleagues that are going on vacation to Canada are feeling very smug right now, thanks to you, Samrat. So thanks so much to all of our speakers. Lorenzo, if you are able to unshare, we can all see each other. Yikes, my face is too big. Unspotlight me. We can go to some of the questions. Thanks for answering some of them in the chat already. And Michael is going to leave us at 1 o'clock. So let's tackle mostly Michael questions now. And if you want to stay from 1 to 1:30, our EV coaches are going to be in breakout rooms where you can talk to them about with more specifics on how to take advantage of these credits. And Samrat, what are you going to be covering in your breakout room?
I'm happy to talk to people about used EVs. We thought that people who want to do new EVs, considering a new car, they speak with Steve, and anybody who's in the used car market can talk to me.
Okay, great. And we found out, since I mentioned that our son has made off with our Honda plug-in EV and won't give it back, that we can actually sell it to him and get the $4,000 tax credit. And so we're actually going to do that before the September 30th deadline. So here I thought we had nothing to learn from this, but it turns out we did actually. So I have a question for Michael. There's a lot of chit chat in the chat about when do these heat pumps need to be installed, and maybe you can answer this. What I remember from my time at Heat Smart was that for tax credits, you just had to purchase the equipment by the end of the year, that they weren't verifying that it was actually installed in your house, which was different from how New York State clean heat incentives work. And again, none of us are tax preparers, and always check any tax advice with your own accountant. But I was wondering about that because there's a lot of people asking that. And, obviously, it would be very difficult in August to start the process today and get a geothermal system installed by the end of this year. I actually tried to reach out in July about that and was already told, no way are you getting geo this year, unfortunately. But it's the time frame for getting a water heater or air source heat pump might be a lot shorter. Sorry, that was a lot of words, but Michael, do you know, or does anybody know about like the purchase of the water heater or heat pump equipment versus the actual installation? How would the IRS be tracking when your equipment was installed, especially since labor isn't part of it?
So on our website, we provide information on this, and we say that the purchase and installation of the heat pump has to happen before December 31st, 2025 in order to be a qualifying purchase. So you can't buy the heat pump in 2025 and then install it in 2026. That will not be eligible for the tax credit.
I still don't know how they would possibly know, but okay. Hopefully that answers people's questions. As far as the weatherization, what counts as weatherization? Insulation, air sealing, we know those count, which is like your spray foam, your packed cellulose, getting your rim joist sealed up. But what about other things? People always want to know about things like windows. Does that count as weatherization under this tax credit, Michael?
So one important steps to make sure your project qualifies is talking to your contractor at the beginning of the project and ensuring it will be completed by the end of the year. Specifically, your weatherization components, such as insulation, doors, windows, skylights, air sealing materials, must be new and have an expected lifespan of at least 5 years. Doors, windows, and skylights must meet Energy Star most efficient certification requirements. Insulation and air sealing materials or systems must meet the International Energy Conservation Code standards. Efficiency standards and ratings. So I'm going to put some links in the chat with that information on what projects and also an IRS frequently asked question on that as well. Give me one moment.
Meanwhile, I'm going to go to Laura's question. If landlords received a utility credit for rental property, can they apply, or does the renter need to apply? I'm not sure I understand this question.
I think it also depends on what is the credit that you're utilizing. Some credits are available to renters, others are not. And often you do have to adjust the price point based on, if you received a utility rebate, then that will have to be adjusted. So the answer is it depends on the tax credit. And if a renter is eligible, generally, you will have to take into consideration any incentives received for that project.
Okay, Laura, did that answer your question adequately? I know that was your question.
I think so. Yeah. I think it did. Thank you.
Okay, great. Something that complicates things for those of us here in New York is we do have really great heat pump and heat pump water heater incentives through the New York State Clean Heat Program, which does complicate how you would, it complicates your federal incentive because you have to subtract that from the price, which that usually is subtracted up front. And also those incentives are different in different parts of the state, so it depends who your utility is. In New York State, the heat pump rebates, for example, you don't really get a rebate unless you're replacing all of your heat. It's a whole home system, whereas the federal, I don't think, requires a whole home system. Is that correct? Somebody tell me if I'm going wrong. Michael, I know you're trying to do links. The federal requirement isn't that you get a whole home heat pump system, just that the heat pumps are eligible, right? I'm pretty sure that's right.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm comfortable.
I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah.
so the
Okay. Yeah.
New York State Clean Heat. They want you to get a whole home heat pump system in order to get rebates, and it's higher if you actually get your fossil fuel system removed and don't leave it in place. But the federal tax credit, I believe, like what I am planning to do in my very complicated house, is put high quality air source heat pumps just on one side of the house. And I think I cannot get clean heat incentives for that, but I can get federal tax credit. We also didn't mention, of course, we're all about heat pumps here, but you can actually use these federal credits for a high quality wood stove or wood fireplace insert. But you can only apply them towards like one kind of equipment. You can't get 2,000 for a heat pump and 2,000 for a wood stove. It's just one place, I believe. And please, somebody stop me if I'm saying the wrong thing, but I think these things are true. Okay, let's take one more question and then we'll thank you guys all for coming. You're welcome to stay and chat more for the next half hour in the breakout rooms. I will create a breakout room for heat pumps and heat pump water heaters where I will try to answer any questions you have, or you can also, I'll put the link to set up your own coaching session again, which I put up earlier. We have a wonderful coach named Tom who's on vacation who does most of the heat pump coaching. So let's see, what question have I missed here? Heather was asking about a list for qualifying heat pumps. It's not a list of manufacturers because it goes by the model number. It has to meet a certain efficiency rating. And as Michael said, definitely talk to your installer. They should know. But you can also check that database for the list, for the number. Really what you're looking for is high quality, high efficiency, cold climate heat pumps that both heat and cool. Angelica asks, do you have resources or tools to estimate how our energy bill will change after heat pump installation? Such an important question. Anybody want to take that?
I can,
Rewiring America.
sure, go ahead, Michael. Michael, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say Rewiring America has an electrification planner. I'll put that link in the chat. And we also have a database on your basically upgrading your heating system. So I'll put both those links in the chat. Thanks.
Right. But I can also speak to some of the data that we have from people in the region here in the Hudson Valley who've made that switch. You'll see the greatest savings if you're moving from an oil-based system to heat pumps. Some people will report up to 2/3 of reduction in their total energy costs. I think propane-based system, especially if it's a newer, higher efficiency system, your savings might be lesser, but you will not lose money. That's for sure. And your payback period might vary, but the warranties on these systems are long. So before the warranty ends, it would definitely have paid for itself. So please move on it. Don't worry about the money part. That's the advice we usually give.
Yeah, I would like to get some numbers together because I'm trying to convince I'm working with the board of my building to convert our multifamily. So
I see.
I love that tool from Rewiring America, but I know it mostly works for single family homes. So
Is your building on gas?
yes.
Okay.
You're not going to be able to see simple savings converting
Right.
from gas to heat pumps for your building is the simple answer. It's the savings can be very dramatic if you had radiant electric or oil. But with current pricing, and we are working on this from a policy side, but with current energy pricing, you're not going to see savings for your building converting. But you will, there are other benefits like cleaner heat, the air conditioning, etc. But you can't make a simple cost argument for your landlord.
Yeah, well, that's one thing to consider, Angelica. I did this. I replaced my heating system with heat pumps. And sometimes, when you've got a really efficient heating system and you're replacing it with the heat pump, you go, well, I'm not sure how much energy I'm going to save. But the thing is, you really have to look at the heat pump as heating and air conditioning. If you were going to replace your heating and your air conditioning, then usually you're going to come out ahead. But it's harder when you're on natural gas or propane. That's already a fairly efficient fuel, and you've got efficient furnaces, and you're only talking about the heating cost, adding up the heating costs.
That's right. All right. So I am going to thank everybody for coming today. You're very welcome to stick around. Thanks to all of our wonderful speakers.